Gibson just did that over the summer. It's the only historic.
Yeah.
In 21 years that ever had that somebody was egocentric, narcissistic enough to ask for their name in the fretboard.
I think we all would if we had the chance.
Most probably because there wouldn't be any resale on it. You know, if you went to sell, it'd be like, well,
yeah, who's gonna want Joe Bonamassa on the head?
No, nobody's gonna want it. You know what I mean? So that's why.
Yeah, you know, keep it individual. Well, hello. I'm Matt from GAK, and we're here with Mr. Joe Bonamassa.
How's it going? And these lovely louver windows.
Yeah, in looking outside the back of the fantastic Brighton Centre. And we're here just to come and have a chat, and we've just been down and talked to Mike about all your rig. He plugged it in for us. It sounds pretty damn incredible. It's quite a collection you got there, really.
Well, it's you know, I mean, it's kind of based on the rig I've been using for years. I switched it up earlier this year. I went to kind of 4 basket weaves, some vintage heads, and a DSL. And that worked out well. I did miss the EVs, though. The sound of the Electro Voice, at least to my ear with the Jubilee, really is kind of what the solo band requires. And so it basically just goes, you know, a lot of people go, well, I can't really hear the difference. There's subtle differences, and more of which is the reaction between the guitar and the amp. Like the Van Wildens, when you couple them with a Jubilee, it gets very thick in the mids, you know. But when you put the JTM 100 with the Kossoff bottom, it's a little brighter. It's a little bit more traditional Marshall. And then we just, you know, for like the big rock moments, I just run 2 Jubilees.
What I liked is that it wasn't too trebly. It was just this really nice mix, this really warm, deep sound, which, you know, I see a lot of guys, you know, working in stores. There's always kind of that essence of a little bit too much treble, and it was just nicely rounded off.
There's a tendency these days to wind. I like stuff. My ear goes to a darker, warmer sound. That's why I use a Les Paul mostly these days, and you know, I set the amps a certain way. There's a tendency now to wind the treble onto these sounds that it just, you're competing with cymbals. You're competing with stuff that's above where the guitar should lie. So if you want a good mix sonically in the band, you got to kind of place the guitar in that mid-range to where it's still, you know, strident enough where it's not muddy, but it's not you know, it's not this, you know, my God, you know, birds fly by and they fall out of the sky kind of thing.
What I noticed as well is when we're talking to Mike, you've not got a huge amount of like gain in terms of gain pedals. Like so many people use everything from sort of pedals these days, and so much is just pure, well, vintage Les Paul tone and Marshall, really. Yeah,
I mean, it's a Marshall in different stages of gain. You know, I use a tube screamer. I use a FET driver. There's also this prototype thing that George Tripp's built for me. I use that on occasion. And that's basically to just kind of kick the guitar into feedback, instant feedback. So you get those nice Nigel Tufnell notes, you know? Because I don't use a lot of gain.
Yeah.
And you know, there's two problems sometimes I see with live gigs nowadays. Is one, and I was guilty of this earlier this year. Everybody uses in-ear monitors. You know, I still use them for the acoustic part of the gig, but I've then jettisoned them for the electric part. You don't get any dynamics, and so the thing is, well, we can get it as loud as you want in your ears, but keep the guitar down on stage. In theory, that works. The problem is there's no headroom. There's no clean headroom. The amp compresses, and you're using a smaller amp, and it just doesn't sound right.
Doesn't feel real almost when I've used them in the past.
There's nothing like that can replicate the sound of a guitar pushing a lot of sound pressure into a microphone. That's the classic tones that we enjoy. Yeah. Old, you know, Zeppelin stuff, you know, that's a super lead with a microphone. Peter Green, you know, Free with Paul Kossoff, Jeff Beck, Clapton. All those guys were playing loud.
Yeah.
And you have to play loud to get that sound pressure. Now, how do you play loud without, you know, driving your best customers out of the room? Well, that's why we use the baffle, you know, and that helps. And then I use the side fills, and you know, a lot of the headroom comes from the monitors. And
well, one of the first experiences I remember I had when I realised how much difference just going loud was Gary Moore used to visit us quite regularly. And we'd one of the only guys we kind of really let crank a Marshall up full whack in store, and it just makes so much difference. Kind of just been pushing all that air out, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sound, and you don't have to keep the guitar on 10 all the time. You roll the guitar down, and all of a sudden it blooms and it gets really clean and clear, and that's really the sound. You know, not you don't want to have a thing where you're, here's my solo patch, here's my rhythm patch, here's my, at least not for me. My solo patches, I turn the volume of the guitar up. My rhythm patches, I turn the guitar down. I don't hit a pedal to do that.
Rather than have kind of like a crazy switching system that's kind of everything's preset patches and pedals and everything's
I only
in racks.
use about 5 or 6 pedals. I mean, it seems to be it would be like buying a space shuttle to as your daily driver. It's a little bit more than I need, But if you're doing gigs like The Edge or a lot of these soundscape guys, then you need all that, But me, I'm just a bozo that plays a Les Paul, and it's pretty much with the delay. You have 2 options: delay, no delay; Leslie, no Leslie, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it was a great sounding.
No wah-wah pedal. A little more gain, a little less gain. Done.
Yeah. In terms of your Les Pauls, obviously we saw some pretty fantastic Les Pauls downstairs. Have you got a personal favourite? Have you got one that sits at home that the main one?
I have a personal guitar that I never bring out. I just bought it for me, and I have it. It's a tomato soup cherry red 1960 Les Paul that I just play on the. I've ended up with 4 1960s for some reason. They tend to gravitate to me, and I kind of gravitate to them.
Is that your preferred sort of neck profile, or?
Well, it depends. Not every, on a vintage Les Paul, when they started bringing out the calipers and measuring, going, well, it doesn't fit into our parameters of. Think about it. It's a handmade guitar. There's not one neck shape that's identical to the next. Even if you put it on a CNC machine, there's still final sanding. There's still
that human touch.
There's still hand. You have to hand do something. So think about it. You got a headstock on a belt sander. Guy's on a Friday. He goes, "I'm done. Thanks." All of a sudden, you get a thicker headstock. On a Monday, he starts talking to his mate about his weekend. You get a thinner headstock. It's just very. You have to. The overall, when you're talking about a vintage Les Paul, all the sum of its parts have to work to where your DNA says, yeah, this is an authentic guitar. Not just one. You can't just fixate on one thing. Here, this gig, we're using 2 1960s and some really nice historics.
I like the Firebird that you got there.
Firebird 1, from my friend Dan, and a couple of historic makeovers, the 335s. The orange one is something that Kim LaFleur did, which is great.
Yeah, that was amazing finish. I've never seen anything like that on another sort of 335.
Well, we took a standard Joe Bonamassa 335, and I said, Kim, just surprise me. I said, just do your thing. Put my name in the fretboard, because once again. The narcissism is just raging at them. I like it because it's a throwback to like the old Gene Autry. Johnny Cash had his name in there. I always thought when you see those pictures, like that's the coolest thing in the world. These country guys, B.B. King, all these guys had the names in the neck. I'm like, wow, that is so, the epitome of like cool. So Gibson was nice enough to do 3 guitars for me. This Les Paul that's in this room here.
It's it's hiding at the back, which I'm sure we'll show you later.
And 2 335s, and then Kim LaFleur did another 335 with a different font. So
yeah, I see you're using the little offset Marshall 1 watt. Is that your general kind of dressing room sort of amplifier?
Yes, Marshall was nice enough the other day when I went up there and did something for them. They were nice enough to give me an offset 1 watt, which is great for the dressing room. I used to use I still have an old Fender Champ in there that's European power, and it's 5 watts. And generally 5 watts for the dressing room is just enough to annoy the rest of the band, just well. Where the 1 watt is good if you want to be nice to everybody.
I think people forget that 5 watts has actually still got a fair bit of kick to it.
It does in a small confined space. If you took a 1 watt amp into an arena. Same as if you took a 100 watt super lead into an arena, it's going to say, oh, it's not that loud. You took a 100 watt super lead in here. The sound pressure, it's based on, and that's what it is, like the concept of my rig, it's based on the size of the room that we're playing. So if we're playing a bigger room, the side fills have to be louder, because in order to achieve the headroom, you have to have it loud. Like last night we played the NIA in Birmingham, which is a big arena. And here we're at the Brighton Centre, which is slightly smaller, definitely as far as the roof. And I cranked up this afternoon. I was like, oh my God, how loud were we last night? But it didn't seem very loud because you're in this massive space. So it's that concept of headroom and the concept of what size an amp do you need for the gig or what you're doing recording wise or whatever. There's a little bit of a science to it, you know.
When you say you talk about like your concept, your rig kind of live, when you go into the studio, do you have an idea of what you want to take, or have you just got a load of gear and you kind of just pick and choose, or do you sort of set something up?
Generally, I can only go by the last studio album. I had my live rig there. I had a couple of Tweed Twin things. I had a couple of Dumbles. I had a Trainwreck, and every flavor of cabinet from EV to basket weave to 2x12 to 1x12, and a combo. I use Jim Kelly amps a lot in the studio. Yeah. I use them live too, and it just depends, on the song. But generally live. I mean, generally I solo live in the studio, so it's my live rig. Like it or not, it sounds like me, and I can't get away from it.
Yeah, it's I must admit, plugged in, it's kind of that instant tone that everyone that we kind of speak to just is after, and it's
well, the thing is not one amp is going to do it for you. You have to pair it. Like if I was to make a mini rig in this room, I'd take the Fender Champ with a tube screamer, and I'd take that 1 watt offset, and I'd put them together, and between the tube screamer or a Klon or whatever, and on the Fender side, and then the Marshall, the way the compression is there, what you're getting is this push-pull compression, where the mids compress on the Marshall, but they stay firmer on the Fender. Thus, what happens is it creates this big ball of mid-range and a very complex sonic pattern, where every frequency, there's nothing struggling. The bass is being covered by the Marshall. The Fender's got the mids under control, and the top, like the presence, the very top of the guitar range, the presence knob is covered by the Marshalls. You get the high and low, and then the Fender drives up the middle, and that's basically my concept. Is you have the Silver Jubilee, which take care of the lows and the highs. What are you going to drive up the middle? Varying degrees of mid range that make a complex sound all the way through the EQ. Yeah. I sound like Howard Dumble back in the 80s. Harmonics, Henry, you take it. Anyway.
Well, I think that is about time, but thank you very, very much for chatting to us, and we look forward to kind of hearing it, in full whack later on.
Excellent. Well, I hope you guys got free passes, because I don't charge for the mistakes.
Cool. Thanks very much. That's Matt from GAK, and we'll see you soon.